If we may, we'll kind of move to the next panel. Thank you, and
Thank you.
please do hang around.
Thank you.
We now, if we could have Thomas Gregory, James Stitt, Anna Marie Ibrahim, and you please come up and speak. Our previous witnesses have also been speaking from the veterans' perspective, but we're looking at right in the eye with you, if you would be so kind. Mr. Gregory?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I appreciate the opportunity to sit before this board. I'm a retired Army captain, and just my presence before you is a testimony to the success of the programs that the County Veteran Service Officer in our county has stood up. I was in the Veterans Treatment Court, and I was also a part of AMP-SURF and VET-SURF. 2 years ago, I couldn't even leave my house, much less stand before a board like this or in public. I was addicted to morphine and oxycodone prescribed by the VA in large doses for pain relief from a helicopter accident and from numerous orthopedic injuries. I was very close to suicide and was ordered to stay away from my wife of 11 years and 2 children. To me, this was the end. In truth, it ended up being a new beginning. I had several run-ins with law enforcement over a very short period and ended up in the criminal justice system with several misdemeanor offenses. Around this time, psychologist Dr. John Riley, through the San Luis Obispo Vet Center, which we talked about a little earlier, recommended I talk to the probation department prior to entering any plea with the court about the newly formed San Luis Obispo Veterans Treatment Program. The program provided wraparound case management services, and my offenses qualified under the Nexus of Service program condition contributing to the offenses. I have both a traumatic brain injury and PTSD. I was accepted into the new program and was simultaneously accepted at the University of Southern California Master's Social Work program with a COPA specialty, which is Community Organization and Planning Administration, with a subspecialty of Veterans and Military Affairs. I was asked by Dana if I'd be interested in participating in a program he started called VET-SURF on Thursdays in Pismo Beach. And it's in collaboration with AMP-SURF, which is a not-for-profit community-based organization. I decided to take Dana up on it, and in the 2 years since that's happened, I've missed basically 3 times, so I really, really enjoy it. About halfway through the Veterans Treatment Court program, I was asked to assist in the operations of the program. I have developed a personal passion for surfing I cannot describe in the time allotted, and have seen the same effect on countless veterans and individuals with disabilities. Jim Stitt and I, sitting next to me, expanded the program to Morro Bay, and I'll let him talk a little bit more about that so we don't repeat ourselves. But we actually have got veterans involved in wraparound case management service as a direct result of VET-SURF. They show up to surf, and 3 or 4 months later, after feeling comfortable, they say, "Hey, this is going on. Can you guys help me out?" And they end up in county services, which has been very rewarding. Let's see. I was the first graduate for the San Luis Obispo Veterans Treatment Court program in June, and I'll graduate with my master's in social work in 8 weeks.
Congratulations, Captain Gregory.
Yes.
That's a huge accomplishment.
Most importantly, the program gave me the tools to assist in the reintegration into civilian society. I have my boys 3 or 4 days and nights a week, which I didn't have before the program. Unfortunately, my marriage didn't survive, but I've since dedicated my life to helping other veterans in similar situations, and have seen the impact of the county VSO, the Vet Treatment Court, and VET-SURF firsthand. Without funding these programs, I know where I would be. I would be one of the 22 veterans today who take their own life. And ask yourself, do you want to be responsible for not funding evidence-based programs of treatment that help this clearly disadvantaged population. A population that, as I said, at a minimum, is killing themselves 22 times per day. Those 22 people wrote a blank check to protect America up to and including the ultimate sacrifice. It is very little to ask, as Abraham Lincoln said, to care for him who shall have borne the battle and his widow and his orphan. And it is a family problem. My family is basically torn apart as a result, and I'm sure my children will also have post-secondary PTSD, and I know that from personal experience and now professionally through USC and some of the studies that are being done. So I would just like to ask this panel to consider the human cost and not just the financial cost of these programs, and that's all I have.
Well, Mr. Gregory, you've given us an example of the hope for the legislators that investment can have huge dividends to a man's come through the trauma that you have, you know, in the military and out, and to go on and resolve yourself to change your ways and get a master's degree. That's great testimony. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Senators. Thank you for the opportunity to address this body on a very important issue concerning our California vets. I'm Lieutenant Colonel James Stitt, United States Army retired, and after completing 36 years of in my military career, I retired in 2012. I returned home to the Central Coast and began to attempt to settle back into civilian life. Part of that process was to get myself over to the Veterans Service Office and file all my 13 military-related disabilities. This brought me in direct contact with Dana Cummings, the head of the VSO in San Luis Obispo. I immediately noticed a surfboard and pictures of surfing in Dana's office, and Dana let me know of the group of veterans that meet every Thursday down at Pismo that was called VetSurf. I was intrigued, and I couldn't think of anything better than joining other vets in this wonderful activity. I informed Dana that I had gone through 4 surgeries on my left knee and was pending my 5th, which I will undergo tomorrow morning. Dana looked at me and told me if he could do it, I could do it. You see, Dana's missing his left knee from the knee down. He had me. And the next Thursday, I was out there getting back in the water. Now, you see, that's one of the best things that about VetSurf. It's vets helping and encouraging each other. At first with surfing and then with much more. First few weeks I spent getting wet, getting to know the group and to understand the dynamics. Trust is a major component that you'll find in a group of veterans. It transcends gender, age, race, denomination. It's based on deep bonds that are forged in the service of our nation, and now becomes one of the most important tools that we have in healing those of us still hurting with mental, emotional, and physical pain sustained while performing what's been asked of them to perform. At times, the conditions are not always favorable for surfing. It's during these times we're able to just have a cup of coffee, enjoy the gift of gab. It's in this informal atmosphere, through the trust of one veteran to another, that we're able to glean and understand the needs of our veterans and assist them in reaching out for other services and programs that they require and have earned. In a nutshell, VetSurf is a two-pronged approach. It assists our heroes in the surfing, which is cathartic for both physical and emotional needs. And VetSurf has become one of the great vehicles to get information and resources to our vets, and has a high visibility in our Central Coast community that helps raise support among our non-vets. In the last 6 months, VetSurf has expanded, and we now conduct surfing clinic in Morro Bay every Friday morning, and are enjoying greater participation from vets that are attending 2 local colleges. We are considering expanding VetSurf even more by conducting our clinics more than 1 day a week in order to provide a greater window of opportunity to connect with our veteran population. In conclusion, I hope that in these few brief moments that I've been able to impart with you the great impact that VetSurf is having on our veterans, and it's such a small cost it's much small cost. Our operation costs are very small, and yet we're able to make those funds go a long way due to the veterans, volunteers that we're fortunate to have, like Tom. Please help our VSO continue this program and programs like this that are having such a lasting effect on our community. Thank you.
Lieutenant Colonel Stitt, did I hear you say you're having surgery tomorrow? I'll be saying some prayers for a successful surgery there for you, sir.
Thank you.
Curiosity, the pin on your lapel there must be of some significance. What is your pin?
Retired United States Army.
All right, I figured that was some kind of a statement for us, indeed. Wonderful testimony. Senator Roth, any questions, Mr. Okay, now we have Anna Marie Ibrahim.
Ivan, thank you very much. I'd like to thank you, Senators, for meeting with all of us today. My name is Anna Marie Ibrahim, and I am a veteran of the United States Air Force. Although I was discharged in 1977, it was a program that you've heard being offered today by the VSO in 2012 that brings me here before you now. It was an advertisement that if you brought a copy of your DD-214 to a community center, you could receive an ID card to receive 10% discount from local merchants that participated. So we loaded up the car and I went down there. Well, my DD-214 reflected an honorable discharge, but to the well-trained eye and educated and sensitive heart of the VSO, specifically Ted Puntillo, it told him a great deal more. It must have been an expression on my face or the pause between certain questions that caused him to take notice. You see, I was only allowed to serve our country for a little over a year when I was assaulted by a stranger. 4 days later, I was raped by this stranger and left bound in my barracks for several days. I was hospitalized for 4 days, and a week later, I was discharged, hidden under the rug and out of sight. These facts weren't reflected in my DD-214, but Mr. Puntillo saw through them, as well as the expression on my face. But little did he know, he opened Pandora's box. He said he didn't know what had happened to me, but he thought that perhaps a further conversation would help, and he offered me his card, to which I quickly rebuked and said no. As I was walking away, he said some very poignant words. He said, "I'd like to thank you for your service to our country, and I believe that you might have now a voice that you didn't have at the age of 19 that could help others now in your same position." I thought long and hard about what he had to say, and I went to his office the following day. I explained to him that my skepticism was not about him personally, but was in fact about a department. It was about an organization that I had my skepticism. He thought and talked to me long and hard about, pardon me, what the VSO would do. He asked me if I'd filed a claim, in which I told him yes, I promptly did, right after my discharge, and it was promptly denied without any exam whatsoever. I was encouraged by my family at that time and the stigma of the times to let the issue die, put it in the past. Easier said than done. The list of medications and issues that my family and I have dealt with over the years are far too long for me to share with you today. I'm blessed to have a husband of 35 years who's with me and our son, 29. Isn't it ironic that I ended up becoming an inspirational speaker who's traveled the world conducting seminars, but not on this issue, on many different ones? Ironic, yes. You see, Ted shared his trust in the system and transferred it to me. Filing the claim was beyond difficult. I discovered the long-term lethal gas of PTSD that had damaged my core. But both my family and the Veterans Service Office, they supported me through the entire process. When my medical records couldn't be located for over 6 months, the VSO came to my aid. When the document I submitted to the VA continued to disappear or become lost into a system despite my receipt of delivery, the VSO also came to my aid at every turn. When it came time for my 2-hour independent psychological review, I was again faced with an unexpected emotions and memories. The VSO extended their support and encouraged me while telling me of the programs available for victims of sexual assault. Throughout the 2-year claim process, Ted and his entire staff gave me both the guidance and the respect I needed to maintain my resolve. When the evidence prevailed and the facts could no longer be shoved under the rug, when the atrocities of 1977 could no longer be denied, and finally, when my claim was approved and I got my benefits, they celebrated with me in the sadness and the frustration and the joy that 38 years later I received. Yes, everyone has challenges in their life. First, I had my physical rape, then the second emotional rape by the military justice system that was in place at that time. I had health challenges with my husband's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, followed by the necessity of me to have my entire pancreatic, endocrine, and digestive system removed to prevent the spreading of my pancreatic cancer. But getting through the 2-year claim process to receive the vindication, as well as the benefits that I deserved, was a severe emotional challenge. Had I been without the knowledge, the support, and the services of the Veterans Services Office, I would not be here today to tell you this story. Yes, I am now appealing my claim. You see, they only gave me benefits back to the date that they finally received them, in 2013, when they acknowledged that the brutal attack took place in '77. So I have a 2-year process ahead of me to fight, but I am confident with Ted, the VSO, and my family, I'll get through it. Sadly,
And the members of this committee.
thank you very much. Sadly, as I sit in the service offices, I meet far too many veterans inquiring about the services to which they are entitled. Many of them are homeless, hungry, and disillusioned. I am amazed at the end of the day, in addition to the dozens of messages left on the voicemails of these officers, a stack of handwritten pink notes await them to work on long after the office is closed. I've decided to no longer conduct my inspirational seminars and talks to the private sector, and I have elected, when physically able, to volunteer all my services as a speaker and inspirationalist to the veterans and enlisted personnel about the necessity of resiliency, tenacity, and attitude. Thanks to Ted and all the VSO, I'm emotionally and financially in a little better position to do so.
That's powerful testimony, Anna Marie, and thank you. And you certainly are attesting to the Ted Puntillo that I know, and I know he's representative of all of you, but he's a cut above with that kind of empathy. And you know, I kind of amazed you anticipated my question, and one of them. What was it like in 1977 compared to now? And in your own very traumatic situation, you spoke to, you know, those times when you didn't talk about it.
Correct.
And there wasn't, just as we didn't know what post-traumatic stress syndrome was, we really didn't know a lot about battered women syndrome either, and violence towards women and the consequences of that. And you've dealt with all of it. I had the privilege of working with former Senators Sheila Kuehl and Jackie Speer when I was chairman of the Board of Prison Terms on the pioneering legislation on BWS. We weren't necessarily focused on veterans, it's just any woman who had been subjected to this trauma. But it is an issue we wanted to touch upon here today, and thank you for doing that. The sexual crimes and stresses that women have to endure in the military. And it emphasizes all the more, as you speak to Ted's impact on your life, how important you are, the veteran service officers, to that healing, to that restoration. And I commend you all for your own resolve, for your own situations that were so challenging, but you turned that adversity into some very positive things, helping a whole lot of other people. And you see, what you're doing for the committee is allowing us to be even better advocates. I kind of put it in terms of a battle sometimes and feeling like I'm on the front line and I'm needing somebody to pass the ammo. I don't mind man in the machine gun, but I need somebody passing the ammo, and your stories, your ideas, your empathy, your experiences, and your testimony in this particular hearing, how a little bit goes a long way, meaning the support the state provides the veteran service officers to do more outreach, how very significant that is. Senator Roth, any questions of this panel here? Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Well, you certainly do. I would like to say take the air out of the room with this kind of testimony, but I don't look at it that way, folks. That's kind of a looking back pessimistic way. The way I look at it, you're lifting us up. You know, this is kind of a little, it's hard to deal with, okay? Even for those of us who've not walked in your steps. I kind of have by the many experiences I've had in my life, but the point is, it's really helpful to us in our understanding and advocacy and our discussions with our colleagues about why a little bit will go a long way. If we may then now have the next group coming up, we've got another panel before we go to some more. Pardon? Yeah, I'm sorry, not public comment, I meant panel. And I wanted to take the liberty of the chair here to call Mary Donovan up first. Mary is a friend of my daughter, and I've got acquainted with her, and she has a very successful program at San Quentin Veterans, healing veterans from the inside out. And Mary, we've heard a lot of testimony here today about the veterans who are incarcerated, and I didn't know we were going to have quite so much, but you're going to add to that. And you're one of what I call the handoff people, that you're working on the inside and you're handing off to the veteran service officers, some individuals who are on their way before they get there. Tell us about your program.
Thank you so much, Senator Nielsen, and thank you all. Yeah, the work that the veteran services officers do to bring benefits to our incarcerated veterans, and also as they parole and come back into the community, the reentry work is Herculean and terrifically important. And our organization, which in the interest of time I'll call VHV, we have a long name, we're another piece of that puzzle. We provide an opportunity for healing for incarcerated veterans from military trauma inside prison while they're inside the prison. And we have a peer-to-peer model. The passion that veterans have to support each other, very much in evidence in this room today, to save each other, exists inside the prison walls equally. And with our program, we've created a space for men, it's a men's facility, so I say men, to come together and help each other. And it's been amazingly powerful. I'll just share very briefly this success story with you. We were founded by an incarcerated former Marine Special Forces operator who came out of the military with profound trauma and participated in prison rehabilitative work and said, hey, you know, this needs to be available to my comrades, to veterans. And so on his impetus and drive, this program began, and then people like myself and other outside volunteers stepped in to support it. We saw that it was really important work. We've now run 5 peer support groups inside San Quentin. We partner with other organizations to offer yoga and meditation, so it's a physical level dealing with the trauma as well, and also a theater piece we're working on now based on our veterans' writings. And all of it is healing. In particular, though, I would say that the trust is in very short supply inside the prison, and these men come together, they support each other. We have a very simple curriculum based on, but it's evidence supported based on writing prompts and then sharing those writings with the group and then receiving feedback. And they challenge each other when they think they're in denial. You know, they support each other. We're strict confidentiality is observed, and they are allowed, for some of these guys for the first time in decades, to develop bonds of trust. You know, and being a veteran makes that possible. inside the prison, because they do care about and have those bonds with their fellow service people. And the results have just been transformative. It's just been remarkable. I'm moved by them every week when I go and sit in the circle. So I think what I want to leave you folks with today is just to really put in it's almost like build it and they will come. We're a very small organization. We just got our first grant. Up until now, it was all volunteer. But we've had this terrific effect on it. We've served about 80 veterans inside San Quentin over the past 2 years. And it's left me very convinced that if there are spaces in the other prisons in the state, if there's a room available, if there are a few volunteers who can come in and facilitate or lend some guidance, our veterans will come together and they will help each other heal. You know, they really do the work. And I want to also put in a plug. Sean Stevens is our Veteran Service Officer. He's been amazing. We have the vet who started this program, the incarcerated Marine. His name is Ron Self. He is also Sean's Veterans Information Project clerk, and he's a very capable individual. I do worry what will happen when he is paroled or transferred. And so I also want to put in a plug for Sean. The more we can make these veteran service officers present in the prison. And I mean, it was so hard for him just to get a green card, which is, you know, should be a small thing in a way. But if he could have, you know, if they can have a desk, just the more presence that there is in the prison, the more recognized these people feel and the more they can make use of the benefits that they have earned.